Greetings, Yoctograms of YouTube. Got some red hot news for you. As of this past weekend, yours truly successfully acquired all the graffiti in Neo The World Ends With You. In other words, I actually managed to platinum this game on the PS4. Have I truly 100%ed this game? Close. Infuriatingly close. The save file lists me at 99%. But I haven't managed to finish the final time attack on Ultimate, nor get the last two pin drops from the secret boss. Regardless, I figured it was about time this Zeptogram right here finally did a follow-up on all those predictions I listed back in July. So, spoiler warning incoming, because we're about to spice this vlog up. Alright, I covered a variety of different theories last time regarding the story, the party, the pin commands, the gameplay mechanics like replay and post game. Some of them I was right on the money. Others I was partially right. Others I was completely off base. I'm not going to do a complete dive into retread what all those different theories were. Just what the results, whether or not they were right or not. First off, regarding Coco. I was on the right track about her having some sort of connection with Shiki, Eri, and Sugami. But no, apparently her friendship with Sugami is genuine, not fake. And she is not a mole for the Shinjuku Reapers. Uzuki and Karya. Yep, they are the upper echelon of the Shibuya Reapers. But thanks to Shiba, they are not the upper echelon of Shibuya itself. Kaie was affected in a lot of ways pretty suicidal. Not necessarily out of guilt, more just out of being, well, kind of done with everything. Shadow Ramen, completely unaccounted for. Like, that's not even a mention of it at all. Meaning, well, it's heavily implied that it reopening was kind of the quote-unquote true path, considering at one point you're also, in the first game, kind of meant to give bad advice that won't let it reopen in order to get the secret reports, as well as do what you need to get it open. I'm not entirely surprised they left it ambiguous. But no, that Makoto, seriously, like the only RG NPCs from the first game that make a return are Eiji Oji and Ken Doi. Well, no, the Jupiter the Monkey Salesman's also back. But, yeah, just those three. No one else is accounted for. None of the other previous shopkeepers. Nobody. This is a little... Heck, not even any of the other NPCs from the RG are showing up. Not counting, well, your classic... counting the original crew. But we'll get to them later. Wildcat is effectively abandoned. But according to secret reports, it's technically open and welcome if any of the Shibuya crew want to check it out. Shinjuku's ruins, they're described, but we're not shown them at all. Kind of a missed opportunity, but who knows what they had a budget for this time around. Now, Joshua prevented Coco from actually making Neku and Minamoto partners like she originally intended. I mean, thanks to him basically whisking Neku away to Shinjuku for 3 years. Unfortunately, that means the two of them weren't forced to interact, and we don't also get to figure out just what the heck happened in those 3 years that got Neku to really consider Coco a good friend. Or at least as much of a friend as he considers Joshua. But as a result of all this, Neku vanished, and Joshua and Minamoto were completely unaccounted for a long time. we very much learn what's been going on with Beat, Rhyme, and Shiki due to Beat joining the party, Rhyme looking into hacking, and Shiki and Eri started up their fashion brand while still high school students. Sadly, we do not get to get all that much info regarding Eri, which is a bummer because I would have loved, Neo, what she looked like in Neo. Maybe that's somebody could do a fan art interpretation of that. I would love to see it. Now, in the anime, Sota, Now, and 777, as well, Death March as a whole, were all brought back at the end, which I'm glad to see that there's another continuity with her still around and kicking. Because in the main game, we were never given a real indication that Joshua had any inclination to bring the three of them back. He was gone while 777 was gone. When 777 got erased by Kanishi. And while Sota Now had a very positive impact on Neku and consequently Neku on Joshua, and even Joshua did find them genuinely charming. Like, I'm not sure he was as inclined to bring them back. Their fates are left completely ambiguous. Like, most of the original not cast. But in the main game in Dogenzaka, you can scan somebody, and they'll mention that Death March is still around. Not just there, but not just in another day. That being said, since the screenshot we get of Death March, maybe two of the band members were BJ and Tenho, but I could not tell for the life of me. But none of them looked like 777. So, who can say what that means for the three of them? Maybe could be something like a Lee, where you replace a band member after a while, or other groups do. It happens. But the three founders going kaput. All three founders not being accounted for, though the band itself still around. I don't know about you, but that seems a little suspicious to me. However, one thing I was completely off base for. It's heavily implied that Minamimoto, aka good old Pie Face, hasn't lost any of his powers from the previous game. Not the stuff he started with, not his taboo powers. But considering how he carries the twisters for the first week, yeah, even without them. However, he's not a fugitive. You'd think he would be, considering he kind of was responsible for erasing a good chunk of the Reapers, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized the only people who knew that for sure were either... I'm a little foggy on some of the details, but the real upper echelon of the first game definitely didn't know, or all gone. So anyone who actually would have known that Minamoto was responsible for the taboo noise. Karya and Izuki, well, especially at the very end of the game, well, let's face it, even if the Shinjuku crew relinquished power back to them while still sticking around, they are understaffed. Like, they need all the help they can get, even from a loose cannon like him. Now, whether he'll actually give them any aid, that remains to be... Who knows? I can see it go... He's definitely strikes me the type who will only help out when it interests him. Or amuses him. Interests... I was also right about that he also has a bit of a soft spot for the Wicked Twisters. But unsurprisingly, he is more concerned with dethroning Joshua than anything else. As well as, and now that Joshua's reappeared again. Who knows if he's going to stay hidden or stay hidden or not. I was also right about Minamoto not sticking around. But I was not expecting Beat slash Neku and Shoka to each stick with the party once joining up. Not counting the certain week 3 day 3 where the party lineup shifts changes a few times, or the very final playable day where Rindo is on his own for a while. Like the party line, like not count, or on day 2 when you of week 2, or on day 3 of week 2 when you have the option to split your party up. Yeah, with those few exceptions, no. They join, they stay. I also was not expecting Neku to become playable once Beat was confirmed to be part of the party. I just figured Minamoto would come back at the after you inevitably fought him as a boss. No, Neku takes up his spot. Minamoto does have the option of rejoining, but not without swapping somebody out, and only in the post game. And unlike the original game and Final Remix, where you could do that from the menu after beating the game, not counting certain boss fights, no, you have to do that by talking to a specific NPC in another day. And also, unlike that, you have to re-alter anyone's equipment by doing so. Personally, I don't really care for that. I think it was a lot clunkier than it needed to be. I get that there's only 6 buttons to work with on any port of this game, but I feel like the option to swap them out should have been a lot easier. I was also right about the ability, eventually getting the ability to wield multiple buttons with the same input. Was wrong about a character being able to wield more than one pin at a time. And the replay mechanic is a very separate mechanic from the chapter select, though this time around chapter select was introduced before the end of the first week, when last time you didn't even get until the post game. I was also right about the secret reports returning, which I'm very happy about. But now that I've covered all my predictions, I also kind of want to provide a bit of a review. Now, I love this game. It's definitely one of my favorite games. And I have a lot to say about it. Positive to say about it first. First of all, it is undeniably a worthy successor to the original game. The battle system is still unique, but not at all gimmicky or determined by the hardware, like the DS or this version or the Final Remix, which honestly I have still not successfully managed to play co-op or even use the buttons. I just find it much easier to have use the touch option. The characters are all so much fun, and the story, while quite different from the original, is very solid. And the music is varied, but it fits, and it is a delight. Though I am bummed that that of all the returning tracks, only Twister you get the option of listening to either the Neo version or the original. You still can't listen, and like with the very original game, you can't listen to the credits. You can't get the option to buy the credits to listen to in your pause menu. Which is a major bummer in my book. And a few tracks that I really did like from the first game didn't return. But still, the new tracks are all a delight. Well, not everybody's going to like some of the more screamo stuff, but I think it fits. Also, very much love the more reasonable requirements for using threads and their latent abilities. That is so much nicer. It's also nice not having to worry about I have to hold on to at least some of these money pins for trading for certain items and other pins. Nope, there's not a single instance where you have to worry about about money pins being needed for trading. You can sell each and every one of them. I did, however, make sure that AGOG's ability to just auto sell them was the last thing I get, because I did still kind of like having at least one of each lying around in my inventory. Just something I like. I know I'm a little weird about that. I and while the battles this time can last a lot longer, especially when you're just really just messing around with a variety of different pins and psychs, the combat is still a lot of fun. And the visuals and the style of the game's presentation from the it just knocks it out of the park. Also, back to the characters, like Rindo is definitely similar to Neku and has some similar issues, but he's still different in that he prefers to keep to himself, but he doesn't put up as much of a fight as Neku did about being around other people. Fret, it's obvious why he and Beat get along. They're good fools, but Fred is also a lot smarter than Beat and a lot more observant than him. And Nagi and Shoka are I found like I honestly saw Shoka being Swallow coming from a while because the first opening taught me to pay attention to some of the details from the. You realize they kind of spoiled that she was Rindo's thing by having her hold the phone. But you wouldn't know. But like with the first opening, you wouldn't know to look for that until you rewatch it. But normally, at least. But I kind of got trained after rewatching some of these openings so many times. Nagi is utterly hilarious delight. And her crush on Minamoto is hysterical. And the fact that she is the one person he can get any bonus from the social network thing. Maybe there's something. Maybe there ain't. Who knows? I definitely see it a little more likely than her actually being in a relationship with Fret. Like, they just. Honestly, Rindo and Shoka had a lot more chemistry. But I do kind of. Honestly, I kind of see Fred as being bi in a lot of ways. Which is pretty nice, because he would be a very flattering portrayal of a bi character in something like this, which I'm kind of glad we're getting to see more of in some of these Japanese produced stuff. Like 13 Sentinels had Tsukasa Okina, who is an amazing portrayal of an LGBTQ character, as well as Takatoshi, but that's a tangent. Yeah. Anyway, it's also nice having so much more Shibuya explore. Like, though, even after having been to Shibuya at one point, could not find Utagawa for the life of me. Was able to find Tower Records, though. I will say, the way the map is set up, it's a little, especially since some of the landmarks have their names changed between the two games. I guess they weren't as afraid of copyright and whatnot, or infringement. I am still bummed that they didn't at least keep the names consistent, because it gets a little harder to figure out which some of these shops are supposed to be the same ones. Like, that's honestly kind of irritating to me. Like, I guess you could argue that, oh, in Universe they changed the names. I'm like, it's still kind of annoying. Still love this game, though. Still love the map, though. Like, they did a good job bringing it into 3D. The Remind puzzles are also just a really nice addition to the game while still separate from imprinting, which is also brought back, but in a slightly different way. And I am a little bummed that you have multiple solutions to the same problem instead of different solutions prompting different results, like in the last game. Like, kind of love messing around, just seeing what would happen with certain things. Like telling yellow to Kendoi would get you curry ramen, or giving, or how you could optionally get the I'm blanking on his name, but the sound tech guy to get the throat lozenges. I miss getting that additional stuff where you could provoke a reaction that wasn't quite the correct solution. I do kind of miss that. I also definitely appreciate how they implemented the dive mechanic and how they basically took the idea of purging people possessed by noise with some of the new noise bonus fighting mechanics from final mixes, and other than some of the stuff that you need to do to unlock it. Like, I appreciated that. Like, it was a nice little touch. And on a related note, Remind is now one of these superpowers I would love to have in real life. It would, along with being able to fly or to pull off the reels what the Phantom Thieves of Heart can do. Now, other things I did enjoy about this, for example, there is so much more voice acting in this game. Minamimo, and at some point I'll give the dub of the TWEWY anime a shot, mostly because I didn't even know it was going to be a thing, and they barely advertised it, that there was even going to be a dub, and I do find it kind of obnoxious that they went out of their way to bring back a lot of these actors for Neo, including a bunch of people who probably haven't done that many roles in the time since, like the guy who plays Minamoto. I think his name is Andrew Hirsch. Like, it sucks they didn't do that for the anime. Like, it really just goes to show which one got more effort poured into it, which is a bummer. Because the anime isn't bad. It's flawed, but it isn't bad. I'm going like, you guys put in... But anyway, I don't want to take the time to just piss on the anime. To take the take the wind out of the anime. Like, Neo, like, the voice actors, especially a lot of the newcomers, are all really good. Like, 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 Rindo's does a great job when he portrays how Motoi, like, especially during some of the more emotional moments. Susakichi's voice actor is amazing. Shoka's is really good too, as is Nagi. Frets also is really good. Beats makes him both very much a badass while still being another riot. And oh man, just so many of the returning characters. Like, I could go on and on about that. I think, honestly, surprisingly, I think the only one I have even the slightest bit of issue with performance-wise in this game is Neku. Like, he honestly sounds too much, like, compared to how he sounds here and in Dream Drop Distance, he sounds a little too mature, too mellowed out. Especially considering he got trapped somewhere for 3 years. Going like, I think, like, the moments where he does still get his snark in, or takes some 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 good-natured ribbing at Beat, like when it comes to Beat having to send text to Rhyme regarding show's jargon. Like, he goes like, that is my Neku. Like, I think But other than that, though, like also just find it kind of a bummer that between how Fire Emblem Three Houses, like everything was voiced pretty much. There are definitely a few moments here and there eh, where they definitely did trim down the voice acting, where I think they didn't need to. Which is kind of a bummer. But I, I'm not surprised that they may not have had the budget. There are certain areas that they had to cut the budget down a bit. Now, the final boss, the Phoenix Cantus, it was unexpected, and it was very different from Draco Cantus in the first game. But it was so fitting, just unique, but still a very fun final boss fight. Not too hard, just right, even on the higher difficulties. Like I enjoy. It was a very fun fight for me. It's a really good boss theme too. Also, there are also just some other really nice, and honestly it was just really an epic fight, but also some really nice touches here and there. Like even the graffiti mechanic, like how it affected the Utagawa back streets. Like not just from when you were walking there and you could see the whole wall graffiti, but you could even see that basically your customized handiwork while you were fighting. Honestly, I think my only real issue with that part is going like, I wish they had given me a little more space, because otherwise I feel like some of my graffiti is just too buried under each other. I kind of want them all to be visible, or at least a little more visible than they are. Like I get, maybe I get that part of. I played enough Jet Set Radio to know that part of the whole thing with graffiti is sometimes you're covering areas up and whatnot. But I feel like I wish they had given me just a little more space. At least with regards to how big some of these tags are. I still think it was a lovely touch. I also adore the social network and how and I adore like just how they implemented side quests this time around. I think it was really good. Like having having that checklist like right off the bat, like it helps so much. Such a great. And also, most of the new noise are pretty damn. Like the gorilla noise, I the T Rex noise. They're hard, but they're fun ones. The black noise were a little underutilized. Like unlike taboo noise, you don't have the option to like farm them whenever you want. But I do like the idea of them being the high risk, high reward as far as your beat drop goes. Oh, speaking of beat drop, a lot of fun. A little bummed it's not as personalized as it was in the first game. Like it would have been, but having it based more on elements, except when you get it to 300. But yeah, I do like what they did with it for the most part. I do like it. Yeah. Also, another voice actor I forgot to mention earlier who I loved. Oh, Xander Mobus' Kubo. And the guy who played Shiba. They, both of them, not are. Oh, they are such delights. Yeah. Also, was it? Cannons wasn't too bad either. Uh, and yeah, just a lot of the new characters. Not just the player characters, but just the new guys. Like, I love Susakichi. Kubo is. He is like Kanishi before him. He is an utterly delightful hate sink. Just a great guy you love to hate. Like, and unlike Kanishi, he's a lot funnier. He's a lot. You don't. He's not as easy. Like And seeing him freak out when he gets exercised, oh man, that was cathartic. Like, I even as I think Kanishi might have been a little more cathartic, but Kubo is way more hilarious. Yeah. Also, just nice seeing how Karya and Izuki have both developed a bit more. Karya is definitely a little more willing to put his neck out for people, and she's still very entertaining to see get mad, but she's a much nicer person this time around. A bit more, still a bit serious. And another pro in the I personally never really had much of an issue with the brand mechanic in the game, or like what part of Shibuya you were in. It would determine whether a certain brand got their stats increased or decreased depending on how popular it was. I personally didn't mind it all that much. I mostly because I barely even noticed how much it affected me usually. I just worked with the pins that worked for me. Brand regardless. But I do think taking that aspect out was honestly probably a smart decision. I may not have had an issue with it, but I can acknowledge it was probably a good idea to take it out. And while not always implemented well, I know there's definitely certain points during week 2 where the like one I actually like to the point like I think I was actually okay with how they did it with like the time traveling mechanic with trying to figure out where Neku was. I think it was okay. How they handled the toys thing could have been done a little better. Like I get what they were going for, but I think it could have been implemented a little better. But for the most part, I really do like how the time travel thing was. Not just from a gameplay perspective, but from a lore perspective. Like one of the fact that you could even unlock some early secret reports this time around, like it's making it clear that even Mr. H thinks this is a this is a broken and dangerous power that should not have been awakened. Like yes, you're able to do a lot of good with it, but oh, dang, does it have repercussions at the end? Some just serious, and bad, broken repercussions. The very end of the game. Yeah, but also a random detail, but another day throughout from the first game throughout this site that Minamimoto may actually be Ken Doi's son. And who knows? Maybe when he became a Reaper, he asked his dad that one of the things he asked for upon becoming a Reaper was that his dad to forget who he was. And because even in another day, it's clear they didn't have the best relationship. So the idea that there's not a single item from Kendall that will provoke anything beyond just blatant a neutral expression from him from their shop, and how if there's any ramen he'll like, it'll be from somebody else's, and even that's not common. Like, yeah, I could totally see. Yeah, I could just see Minamoto, for lack of a better way of putting it, just being salty at the guy. That being said, like, as much as I've talked about all the stuff I've loved about this game, and, well, a few things I have issues with, there are a few other things I do have issues with. Some a little more serious than others. Now, I don't want to harp on too much about some of the more common grievances that people have had with this game. Like how little fleshing out Ayano, Fuya, the Deep River Society got, the poor implementation of the Scramble Slam, or the Chameleons. Mostly because I don't really know what else I could bring to the table regarding my own critiques of those aspects. Now, there are a few things that I feel like aren't getting talked about as much that I kept to. I feel like there honestly isn't as much noise variety this time around, which is a bummer. Like I think like the boomers, the moles, the minks, the core foxes, even the core hogs, like yeah, I could have seen these guys getting brought back. You know, the drakes maybe a little trickier, but yeah, these guys could have been come back. I'm also I'm also bummed like there's a noise now that's exclusive to the anime, the spider one. I'm going like that could have been for an interesting one, like having that would have been a great way to implement more of a trap mechanic from an enemy. I'm kind of bummed. Now, one thing that really upset me was just how low the cap is for increasing certain stats through food. Like HP, yeah, 999 makes sense. The fact that there isn't a single thread that requires 300 and 300 style, despite that being what you can, the max you can increase. Like the highest being 222, I'm going like, wow. I feel like maybe might have been some DLC items planned that could have gone to 300. Like that would have made sense. But attack and defense, like, yeah, they're capping them at 500 seems a little low. Then again, I never maxed out any of my stats in any in either the original TWEWY or Final Remix, which would probably explain why I haven't beaten the secret boss anything higher than normal in that game. But yeah, but the thing I have the biggest gripe with the whole food raising thing this time around is how increasing your drop weight works. Because not only is it very random, even that caps out. And I mean caps out really, really early on. Like, unless you, like, with that thing maxed out, food-wise, I can put my stats, like, I got lucky that I could, when it, to get the last black cat pin, I got lucky that the only way I could do it was have my HP at a certain level. But as a result, due to how I had to handle the drop rate, it was like a fair 50-50 shot about. Like 57%. Like, not much was in my favor for that. Like, defense and the drop rate through food, not only too low, but the drop rate just. Like, heck, I got also super lucky with getting some of, like, one of the Black Cat pin drops from the second Mr. Mew fight. Or even some of, like, the Another Day fights. Like, you can't chain those. There's not blue noise options for that. Not only that, but like even one of the plaque noise, like for the wolf, the plaque wolf, trying to get their last drop on ultimate. Dude, you need the killer remix for that to even stand a ghost of a chance. Like that just ain't fair. Like, like I even though I haven't even beaten the bosses on the difficulties necessary, in Final Remix in the original, I was able to raise my drop rate pretty easily to the point where like I'm going like I can still keep my level close to 100 and still not have to worry about missing the harder ultimate drops from the boss. Like I can feel comfortable. Like that's really weird. Also, I think compared to some of the more out of combat unique powers the characters got, I feel like telewarp didn't make sense for Shoka. It honestly would have made way more sense for Minamimoto, given his teleport spam in the first game. That and compared to the remind, the dive, like it was underused, and it also just didn't have as much practicality as Beat Sound Surf. nor even like, and that's not even that's not even taking into consideration Windows stuff. Neku also, like, his uniqueness did not his unique out of combat ability did not come into play up until like the final like the final like when they were putting their plan in motion to make sure they could handle the soul pelvis. Like, his unique out of combat was purely narrative. It had no gameplay aspect whatsoever. Like, I feel like that was a missed opportunity. Also, character specific pin evolution was not handled well. I get they wanted to do something different from the whole sleep and mingle mechanic from the first game, but there was nothing indicating that the way to evolve these pins was to alternate, was that you needed to have them equipped to a certain character. There was nothing in game to implicate that. None. Nada. Zip. Zilch. Doesn't also help that you get a pin early on that the only way you can evolve it is with a party member you don't get until the middle of the final week. Like, I got that pin in the demo, and it wasn't, and he was the last main game party member to get for evolving it. I'm going like, I had no idea that's what they were going to do with it. Like, that was that was a that was really poorly implemented. And with the exception of week 1 Minamimoto and what his subsequent departure does for the Wicked Twisters from both a narrative and stat perspective, in combat, the characters all felt a little too samey for me. I mean, I do appreciate the options for versatility compared to the first game, but I feel like a good way to solve this may have been actually to tie it into my previous problem with the characters evolving certain pins. Namely, have pins that had either the same psych, like make it so that have more pins that would evolve in certain party members, on specific, but have them all either be like have like all those pins either be generally the same brand, the same elemental affinity, the same psych, or the same input. Like, that would have made it like, oh, this character, this is more what they're geared towards. Like, and I feel like they kind of introduced the chapter select mechanic at a weird time. I feel like they should have either done it either right from the start, post game like before, post week 1, or post beat rejoining the or post beat joining up with the team. That, I think, would have been one of the better points to implement it. Also, due to Shoka only not even being with the team for a full day before her status as a mole is revealed, I feel like that honestly kind of lessened the impact of her betrayal for me a bit, especially since the betrayal doesn't stick. I'm also kind of bummed that I think the fight with Shiba was great, and I do get why they had him to scramble visually, but I am bummed we never got to go to the pad where he was doing his daily announcements. That we don't really get to even see the Shibuya River this time around. Nor do we actually really ourselves get to, like, when we go to Kai for help or stuff, like, we're never really like, when we as the players make our characters go see Kai, like, we're never inside his fortune shop. So I knew it was in Spain Hill, and I think I know where it's located. But it's kind of bummer that we didn't ever actually really, go inside, and you didn't have an option for, like I feel like that could have been implemented. Something you could have done with that. But c'est la vie. Uh, also, another day. Look, one of the things I love about The World Ends With You is that the main game is already an utter blast. But I feel like thanks to not just the secret reports, but just how much there was to do in another day, it made it one of the best post games in a video game I have ever experienced. This time around, another day kind of felt a little bare bones. Like, it was still hilarious, but there was a lot of missed opportunities. Could have had Fuya do something, like, and Motoi appear. Like, heck, all of the main NPCs from the story show up. Like, they had a lot of the Reapers do something, but dang, that was a missed opportunity. Like, I would have loved to have seen, like, have Fuya be the equivalent of Higashizawa. There's also no 10-pin slam or an equivalent to it, which also kind of really bummed me out. You could have done so much. Like, and as a result, no Shooter Dan, which yeah. And honestly, as odd as this sounds, I felt like Ayana was more fleshed out in another day than she was in the main game. Like, that just seems weird to me, yo. It's also a bum. And also, I already mentioned my grievances with the whole party swap mechanic. Once you actually get the ability to really get him. And I'm also going to be honest, I'm probably in the minority for this, but I feel like they oversimplified the process for getting the secret reports. And the bonus cutscene for getting them, it wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's not like certain games' more infamous stuff, or like just saying congratulations for getting like the screen they show, and they're like, "This is what I get for 100%ing." Like, no, here it's not bad, and it wasn't poorly written either. But I don't feel like it was as good as the originals. But anyway, in conclusion, Neo TWEWY is by no means inferior to TWEWY. Like, but it's difficult for me to say it's superior either. It's a great sequel, but I wouldn't exactly say it's better than the original. Regardless, it is a solid game that fans of the original will enjoy, especially those who are familiar with the another day aspect. I mean, a new day aspect of Final Remix. And Square Enix should have not only released it sooner, but not utterly dropped the ball with the marketing of the game in the West, as well as the marketing of the TWEWY anime in the West. Like, if you're going to bother having an international market, you need to actually put some effort into advertising towards them. I should not, like, heck, a few of my friends are also TWEWY fans, some of them partly due to me, but I had to be the one to tell them about this. Like, that shouldn't have been the case. They should have been able to learn about this without my input. Now, as unlikely as it is, since they clearly have dropped the ball in a lot of this, but just for fun, I'm gonna say what their potential DLC, downloadable content, or even a re-release of this game should include. New pins and new threads, like having pins for Black Honey Chili Cookie, or giving us actual Groupon and respect, so I could finally know what those pins actually look like, since according to certain manuals, those are the pins Shiki and Beat used in the first game. Or heck, just bringing back old pins and brands. That could be interesting. Also, making Shiki, Joshua, and Rhyme playable characters in the post, either in the post game or just something giving you the option to swap out as them, giving them some unique threads and some stuff in the NPC charts. Like, also because I kind of just want to see, like, if you do that, also just more stuff to do during another day, like either bringing back old NPCs and using them as a means to add new options to the social network, like boosts between Rindo and Nagi and Fret, Neku and Sho, etc. Or giving abilities to some of the DLC characters I just listed. Like, I just want to also just finally be able to play as Rhyme. Bring back a new version of Tin Pin Slammer, or some equivalent, like a playable version of it, not just something that gets thrown off in like the social network lore or some a bit of a gag. Bring back more of the old tracks, including the original versions for 3 minutes clapping, calling, etc. As well as just maybe even like, what would a new version of "Give Me All Your Love" sound like? Yes, I know it's a weird one to ask for back. Like, also, unlock the ability to swap out party members outside of another day! And more types of noise, like the anime spider noise, bringing back the boomer, the Korog. Now, here are some suggestions for if they ever decide to do a sequel or a new installment in the franchise. If you're going to bring back old characters again as party members, Rhyme and Sho from the original, as well as Nagi and possibly Shoka, have the most room to grow as characters. So if you're going to have anybody from previous installments return as party members, go with those guys. I loved Neku, Shiki, Joshua, Beat, Rindo, and Fret. But I don't feel like I don't feel like they have as much to offer in future installments as outright party members, as those characters, as those four do, outside of cameos, or at least not without retreading the roles that Beat and Neku already played in Neo. Like, they've earned it. Neku, Shiki, Joshua, Beat, Rindo, and Fred. I feel like their arcs are done. Or at least, I feel like they should be acknowledged. You should get to see cameos from them. But I don't feel like in a main game concept, they shouldn't be in the party. Rhyme, however, there is so much more to do with her. And Sho's clearly not done going after Joshua. Like, there's clearly, I want to see more of his character development. Then, he's also a riot. Nagi, like, she was a great character, but I feel like there's more they could do with her. And Shoka, it was nice, her relationship with Rindo as Fred, and it'd also be just kind of nice seeing her torn between, like, if she gets forced back into the Reapers game, going, like, kind of causing a conflict, because it's clear, like, she has some good, like, initially she had no good memories of her RG life before Joshua put her back in there. But maybe having the conflict, going, like, she's on the borderline between two worlds and she can't decide, like, there's stuff to do with her. Nagi, like, seeing her kind of just, she's very empathetic, and she also can't really, but at the same time, Fret drove her crazy with how insincere he was most of the time. But maybe show her actually embracing her empathetic side more, actually kind of playing more of a group therapist, like being more encouraging, and just helping people break out of their shells more, as well as just seeing more of her being outright hilarious. Also, if you're not going to change the primary setting from Shibuya, don't just limit this world to Shibuya. Let the players see other neighboring areas, or even just other parts of Tokyo, like seeing Shinjuku, be it in ruins or on its way to restoration, or some other sections of Tokyo, like Akihabara or Ikebukuro. Or also in a re-release of this game, I should have mentioned this before, but maybe actually have a bonus fight with Haz. That would be kind of, because I know they wanted to, apparently he was originally going to be the final boss. That didn't end up happening. Also, strike more of a balance between how distinct each character feels both in and out of combat from a gameplay perspective. So just making certain characters more prone to evolving certain kinds of pins, or making certain characters just more natural, like get a boost from certain kinds of psychs. Like they can use other things, but they get more of a boost from certain things. Also, this should go without saying, but if any future installments keep delivering on the characters, designs, the story, the presentation, the music, the uniqueness, keep delivering on that. And also, something Square Enix really needs to learn here: put more effort into marketing the game outside Japan! I shouldn't have to be the one to tell my friends that TWEWY was getting a sequel! I should not have been to be the one to do that! That is literally your job! Anyway, and lastly, just for funsies, I got some to help really give make sure the fandom has plenty of stuff to work with. I'm more a writer kind of guy, but I have several ideas for some interesting ideas for fan art for just The World Ends With You and Neo TWEWY. There's some stuff to give some people some ideas. Number one, a double date between Neku and Shiki and Rindo and Shoka in Miyashita Park. Or number two, what I like to call the Neo Wicked Twisters. A group shot of Rindo, Fret, Nagi, and Shoka, plus the Neo versions of Neku, Beat, Minamimoto, Shiki, Rhyme, and Joshua. Basically, all 10 of them in either the Scramble Crossing, Mr. H's Cafe, Wildcat on Cat Street, in front of the mural in Nutagawa, or on the steps, or atop the 104 building. And then what I like to call the Ultimate Killer Remix. Namely, all those characters I just listed performing the final killer remix against either Phoenix Cantus or Kubo. Number 4, a theoretical Neo version of Eri. Number 5, a theoretical Neo version of Shooter Dan. Number 6, the many different versions of Shomi Namimoto, aka fan art that shows both his original design, Leo Cantus, Taboo Show, Neo Minamimoto, Leo Cantus Armo, and Felide Cantus. And lastly, fan art of 777, Sota, and now... Oh, and one more that I just thought of. The fallen characters from Part 8. Specifically, Kanon, Susakichi, or the ones I miss the most. Kanon and Susakichi. Ayano too, I guess, mostly for Shoka. If you want, you could throw in Motoe and Fuya, but those three I think are the better saves for that. Anyway, that is all I have to say on the matter. This has probably gone on for quite a while. I had a lot to say, and this took a few takes to actually get started. But anyway, thank you all for listening. And with that, I bid you adieu.